All right, we're talking about starting teams for the faction towers. We'll start with all of the factions, starting with Lightborn first. We'll just go in order. Lightborn faction starting characters for that tower. Um, Probably the best thing you want to lock down is a tank. Lightbearers excel really well at support. They've got some really key DPS, but tanking wise, it's it's not great. So Hendrik is probably your number one choice. He's really good because he has the ability to shield somebody in the back row with one of his skills. That can be really clutch for completing a level. Past that, you're looking at secondary tanks. Lucius, if you happen to pull him first, can put a shield on everybody. That's good. And Sonya is also another really good backup tank. Later on, she gets a lot better, but at the beginning, she's just okay. Um, the other thing is that you pretty much just want to pick a carry and then just stick a whole bunch of supports with that because the Lightbearer faction is very good at supporting one character. So you have characters like Rain, Strilda, uh, Rosalind, and Palmer. All of those characters. Oh, and Rowan. All five of those characters will support the shit out of one carry. So if you have like Scarlet, for instance, and you stack everybody on Scarlet, Rosalind's following Scarlet, and everyone's buffing Scarlet, she'll do a bazillion damage and win you the match most of the time. The only thing you have to be careful for is Scarlet getting insta-gib before she can get all of her ults off. And likewise, that's where Hendrik comes in. So Hendrik is probably, like I said, number one choice for a tank just because he can do that he can shield her just enough time to maybe get an extra ult in and that can kill the whole rest of the team. So that's super helpful. Um, and then just note that there's a lot of bad characters in the Lightbearer faction, at least for the tower is concerned. So um, Fox is borderline unuseful. I mean, all the characters are good at the beginning. You don't even really have to have a built team in order to beat the first couple of levels. But once you start getting a little bit higher, you start getting into the 100 levels and so on. That's when you run into problems if you pick the wrong characters to support you in battle. So yeah, just be careful of that. Rigby, Oscar, Ellard, and Peggy, not super great. Gwyneth is okay. Again, in the beginning, Bullen is okay in the beginning, but there's characters that just do better than they do, especially if you look at Scarlet and her ability to just ult and kill everyone. So yeah, and Moro's okay. He does some good stuff. So that's the Lightbearer faction. We'll go to Mauler's. We're just gonna go down the line. Brutus is an amazing tank. The only caveat to that is that you can't use him if you're using the Awakened version of Brutus. So that sucks. Because Awakened Brutus, I mean, any of the Awakened characters will carry you through most of these towers. So just be aware of that. But if you're not using Awakened Brutus or you don't have Awakened Brutus yet, then Standard Brutus is probably going to be one of your best tanks because of his invulnerability. Um, then you've got Numusu. He's really good. He's one of the only supports in the tower. And that's one of the reasons why it's really difficult to progress in this tower is because they just straight up don't have that many supports. That and Salakai are your two main supports. So just if you get Numusu right off the bat, that would be the one that I would pick. He gets way better once you get the signature item up to just literally to the first, just unlocking it. Once you get him to Mythic, he gets the ability to just start off the battle with totems already out. That's super helpful. So that would be one of him, and like I said, and Salakai are the two supports that you should go with, whichever ones you have. Kren is like the big carry in this faction, in this tower. The only thing about him is that he dies very quickly. So if he's not built out and it's the beginning of the game, he'll still do a lot of damage, but everything is really about his ult. So stick Dura's Call on him. Don't put Dura's Call on anybody else. And whatever you do, get him to ult. If he ults, you pretty much win. That's like kind of the name of the game. So put your barricade on Brutus. Put your Dura's Call on Kren. Get all your support around Kren. And make sure he doesn't die. If he doesn't die and he ults, you win. Good game. Another carry is Entendre. It's kind of a like if she's built sort of thing. So her signature item allows her to uh, just kind of blitz through the whole team, um, because she just starts stacking stuff, and she goes crazy. She can solo a lot of levels in the early game. I guess like again if she's built, and then past that, Scrag is also another really good tank. So he's probably secondary tank. He actually does really really well in synergy with Kren too, because Kren starts off the battle with your bombs on the other side of the enemy team, and Scrag will push them into those bombs. So that's super helpful. I guess technically, if you want to think about that same synergy, if you have Scrath and you put the Windbinder on him, right off the bat, he will put that big like sandstorm, and it'll push the enemy team again into those bombs. So again, very helpful. There are some bad characters, but again, the major reason why it's hard to progress in this tower is that just there's no support characters, and the whole life leech problem. So moving on to Wilders, there's some characters in Wilders that you probably should have one copy of anyway, just because you only need one copy in order to get their usefulness out of the battle. So that's like Leica. Leica's really good because she starts off the battle, the whole team gets haste. That's really great. Lorzen will connect 2 units and make them do damage. Each of the units will deal damage to each other based on the other one getting hit. So again, helpful. Pippa will teleport characters around either in your favor if you want to drop your characters on them, or just disrupt the enemy team. Very good for that reason. So those are a couple different characters. Iron is that interesting because if you only have one copy, he does really really well because he does the pull, and that's super helpful for again disruption. If you have him built, he can actually be your carry, so he can do lots of damage, and that's really good. But again, kind of has to be built for that. If it's the beginning of the game, Raku is going to be okay at DPS. His main thing is that you have to get his SI built. Once you get his SI to 30, he just literally destroys the whole team. All your damage will come from him. So that's really, really helpful and awesome. You have Mishka is next. Mishka is a really great tank. Again, much, much, much better if she's built. Pretty good in the early game, regardless. Navanthi is another one of those. Navanthi is probably one of my favorite characters in the game. I just really like her design, and the healing that she does is really really great too. So she's awesome. She again, the higher you have them built, the better with most of these characters. But in Raku, Mishka, Navanthi's case, absolutely the bigger the better. A Star is another one. A Star is really great in the beginning because she heals, and she also puts a shield on your team. If you get her SI built, she also does damage, so that can be really great secondary damage. And she just floats above the enemy team, so she does a lot of damage and healing without even really being targetable. If you're looking for a secondary tank, Gorvo is probably my choice. He's got lots of health. He's got this shield that he puts around himself so he doesn't die right off the bat. Again, he's really, really good. And I think he also has a stun, so stuns are great. And then probably the last hero to mention in this for starting off teams is Saurus. Saurus is again, any character can be used in any of these towers, but the major thing about Saurus is that if he's built, he can actually be a carry as well. So any character can essentially fulfill the role of just like a placeholder in the beginning if you have a good carry. But then once you get some of them built up, some of them can carry on their own instead of just being there. So that's basically the Wilders. There's some bad characters, but not that many. I would say like maybe Sirius. He's not that great. The tree is one of the worst characters in the game. So yeah. Kaz has an interesting feature where she can actually dodge magical attacks. It's like the only character in the whole game that can do that. She's not a great character, but she can do that. So I guess if you need that and you happen to be stuck on a level or something, then take that into consideration. On to Graveborn. So lots of characters in this that are good. There's almost too many to list, but we'll go through them. Grez is a good starting off tank. If you have him built, he can be a carry himself. He's amazing. Damon is probably one of the easiest to carry units in the whole game, just because of his ability to both shield, heal himself, and damage the entire other team. He's just a powerhouse, so he can get so much done. Past that, Oden is probably a really great secondary DPS in the beginning. Again, once built, can be a carry. Silas is one of the best support healers in the game. Again, once you have him built, he has additional features. So his clouds will do damage mitigation. His injections will do damage, or will buff damage of whoever person that he's injecting. And again, like you said, really good healer. Really good. Like, he's kind of like a multitasker. So he puts out the clouds. The clouds, kind of go around and heal things at their will. But then if someone gets too low and he is ulting, he will pick the person that's about to die and just save them. It's a little bit chaotic because you don't really know when that's going to happen or which character is going to take damage right then. But it can be kind of a game changer. Like, you could be stuck on a level and then all of a sudden he ults and it just happens to be Damon or Oden, and he injects them and they start just pumping damage. So that can win you matches that you shouldn't have any right winning. So let's see, what are we on now? We're on Pharrell. Pharrell is really great early game, energy disruption. Late game, really good. So that's another good character. Desira is a good character, good support. Isolde, kind of like a tank in the beginning, but if you have him built out later on, he can carry. He can do some like cheese stuff. Kayleen is another character that has multi-functions. She can be like a good secondary DPS. She has a lot of health, so you can actually put her in the front row. She can kind of secondary tank. And she does damage too. Tresnor's okay. Again, damage is there, some usefulness. Hodgkin, good buff, kind of a tank as well. Again, early game at least. Shamira, biggest caveat to Shamira, everyone knows all this. I say it in every single video, but Shamira is a character that can carry in the beginning a lot. And she's really easy to build because you just get lots of copies of her, kind of just like throughout the game. But there's a tipping point where she just stops being useful almost at all. You can use her as a secondary DPS once she drops off. You can use her in later teams once it goes to later teams. But in the beginning, she is really good. So don't worry about, if you're pre-Crystal Break, use her. Why not? Who cares? She can help you through some of those tower levels. So those are all my recommendations. We don't have a dimensional tower yet. And even when you do have that one, that will not be like an early game thing. That'll be way later. And again, just to reiterate, any single tower that you have an Awakened character, put the Awakened character in, because even a single copy will carry you through so many floors. All of them will like essentially hyper carry you if you happen to be lucky enough to get one of those just from random pulls. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully I wish you good luck and good resources in that good old faction tower of your choice. And have a good one.